me the opportunity to share with you today a brief history of the Columbia Values Diversity Celebration. And I need to make one correction before I begin. I am not the coordinator of the event. I am on the planning committee, but I can't take full credit for being the coordinator. The first celebration took place in 1994, and Mary Ann McCullum was the mayor at that time. And she had an assistant named Georgia Lou Swoboda, who helped start and coordinate the event. Georgia Lou had organized a similar event in Phoenix, Arizona, when she lived there. The mayor created a committee that consisted of Phil Steinhaus, Cindy Mustard, Muriel Battle, and a few others. The program began to operate out of Phil Steinhaus's office, the Office of Community Services, with Lois Bushner, who was Phil's administrative assistant at the time, taking on most of the administrative work. The decision was made to schedule the breakfast on the Thursday before the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday so that it would not conflict with two other celebrations that were held on that holiday. There was and still is an event that takes place at Second Baptist Church at noon and a candlelight march in the evening sponsored by Columbia Parks and Recreation. It was also the belief that the business community would attend a breakfast on a work day much easier than on a holiday. The theme of that first celebration was "It's a Whole New World," and it was held at the Ramada Inn with about 200 people in attendance. After a couple of years, the event moved to the Hearns Center Fieldhouse, and a poster contest was held one year, resulting in establishing the logo for the event. The event continued to grow, and the committee decided to move it to the Expo Center, where it has remained. The theme during the early years was always very community-centered. Instead of speakers, it was a fun arts event that celebrated the diverse cultures of Columbia. Over the years, the committee added another element to the program. Student writing essays became an important part of the celebration. Students from all over Columbia participate in a writing contest where they are given the opportunity to write an essay about what the theme means to them. Essays are then printed in a book, and selected essays are read aloud by the students at the event. This helps to assure that all members of the community are involved and represented. Clyde Ruffin joined the program committee and began writing and directing powerful scripts and brought along singers, dancers, theater performers, and multimedia. His productions were outstanding, and he continued to volunteer his time for many years. He is still a treasured member of the committee, and we reach out to him every year for his involvement in any way possible. The City Channel started filming and running the program on the City Channel. It is the most diverse event in our community, with a sold-out attendance each year. The breakfast is a local attraction for the business community that was designed with an uplifting message for all. The committee started to branch out and invite notable speakers from around the country. On the 10th anniversary of the breakfast, our guest speaker was Reverend Bernice King, Dr. King's daughter. In 2017, the guest speaker was Naomi Tutu, daughter of the late Desmond Tutu, South African anti-apartheid and human rights activists. Both women, whom have had the opportunity to participate in many diversity celebrations, commented that ours was one of the best and most organized celebrations they had attended. They recognized the support shown by the community and its leaders. Another memorable program was when, through our connection with Clyde Ruffin, we were able to showcase the talent of a blind Boone performer. He told the story of blind Boone's life and his connection to Columbia. Now, next year is going to be the 30th year for the breakfast, and I can't imagine what program will look like or who our guests will be. We are going to start working on that soon, and I can't help but be excited about it. The award element of the diversity celebration started after the actual celebration. It started in 1998. This part of the program was included to honor individuals and groups in the Columbia community whose work exemplifies the life and teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The late Gertrude Marshall Marble was the inspiration for that award. Gertrude spent her adult life in Columbia and gave so much back to the community. Her service included co-founding the Voluntary Action Committee, volunteering for a substance abuse recovery shelter, and becoming a lifelong member of the League of Women Voters. She was active in the faith community, directing a children's choir program, and being a founding member of the Columbia Friends meeting. Gertrude was instrumental in establishing the Peace Studies program at the University of Missouri, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2021. Her life is an example of the types of people who have helped to make Columbia a better place. Gertrude Marshall Marble passed away in 1997, and it was the next year that the Diversity Awards were presented. Over the past 25 years, many in our community have been recognized. Each individual and group has made valuable contributions as we continue to grow to be a more inclusive city. It's amazing that Columbia has so many people in our community doing this type of work that we know is never over. Each year, individuals and groups who are nominated serve as inspirations to us all. My mother, Beulah Ralph, was one of the recipients of the award. And I can remember when she accepted the award and I came back to the stage as the MC, the first thing I said was, I'm not on the selection committee. I was, however, as you can imagine, so very proud of her and her accomplishments. I'm pleased to say that I am a member of the Columbia Values Diversity Planning Committee. I've also been the MC of the event for many years, and I cannot exactly remember the date that I began as the MC. I take pride in representing the committee as the MC. It's important to me that when I speak, the audience will remember the history of discrimination, racism, and bigotry that Dr. King and other civil rights activists fought to replace with equality, equity, and inclusivity. I hope that the event will continue to inspire the audience to celebrate diverse voices and perspectives which make our community strong. This celebration is a call for Columbia to keep learning and growing. Thank you. And if I can answer any questions, I would be happy to.
Well, my
Yes, question. Yes.
Yes, I was wondering if you could tell us, describe what you think some of the long-term impacts have been of having this celebration in Columbia.
Well, I have certainly seen a difference in the people who attend, because what we want to be able to do is to share a message and then have that message go back to businesses and offices and school buildings, and that is taking place. Yes.
I think David Robinson has his hand up.
Okay. I wonder if you remember can tell us more about the lady who helped in the beginning, having come from Phoenix, Arizona. As I recall, Arizona was a big state that was an opposition to the federal holiday.
Absolutely.
And I have a feeling that made it very important for the people of Phoenix to try to do something. And are there any lessons for those of us who live in beleaguered places, how we need to make leadership?
Well, I just think that it's important to recognize that there are diverse cultures within the community. And when you recognize those cultures and give them an opportunity to come together, I always say, and this comes from my being the multicultural coordinator, when we come together, we often find out that we are more alike than we are different. But I think just being able to come together and show an appreciation for the diversity makes a big difference.
Great, thank you.
Carl and Laurie.
Yeah, hi, Ms. Naylor. I appreciate your efforts to MC this event for the last few years. I've attended several of them, and as a matter of fact, I was talking to some of the folks recently. Reverend Clyde Wilson, who is my former colleague, or Ruffin, not Wilson. I'm sorry, I'm thinking about a former mayor, but Clyde Ruffin, my former colleague. And I said, I missed him. And he said, well, carry on. so there was that. But I do appreciate this year's event was pretty remarkable. I thought the quality was tremendous. And although it was a bit abbreviated, obviously Clyde gave his address and poem and so on and so forth. But it was a remarkable event, and it usually is. So thank you very much for all that you have done. And carry on, if you will.
Well, thank you. I look forward to it. Every year I say, this is the best one we've had, and each year it's better. So if you can come away from it feeling that way and saying that, then it's something that you want to continue with.
Oh, by the way, just a note too, you mentioned Marianne McCullum. That's how I really got introduced to some of this early on. She has been, for my past two campaigns, my treasurer, if you will. And David K. Robinson does all the work. He's the deputy treasurer. But
Yes.
Mary Ann and I have gone back a long time, so she was a great person as well.
Yes, she is.
Thank you. Larry Brown, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering how diversity has changed over the years of doing this celebration. I'm assuming diversity has broadened. We now think of many more cultures or personal expressions that count for diversity. So could you say a word about how you've seen diversity expand?
I think there are so many things under that diversity umbrella, and we certainly try to incorporate that it's not just about male, female, or culture. It's also about persons with disabilities, and so that is a part of diversity. So we want to make sure that we are inclusive in that respect, that we include people who in the program who maybe are disabled or not only from another culture, but have other things that make them diverse. So we try to make sure that's incorporated in our program.
Monica, I have a question.
Yes.
I had forgotten about the celebration, and the first time I heard about it, the tickets were already sold out.
Yeah.
So when should we start? When do you start selling tickets? And I'll put it on my calendar for years.
Well, I'm not sure exactly of the date, but it comes out in the newspaper. It's in all the media. Usually in November, I believe,
Okay.
is when ticket sales start.
Is there now
You know,
a website to go to?
yes,
Do you
yes.
have? Can you give that to us, or?
I can get that to you. I don't have it right at hand, but I can get that to you. And I'm going to say it's www.Columbia Values Diversity Celebration.
Aha. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I think one reason it was sold out so quickly this year, weren't there fewer tickets sold because of the pandemic?
Fewer, but you know, businesses buy tables. And that's usually what happens. You know, when you buy a whole table or two, they sell out quickly.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Muleskinners has bought a table in the past. Too.
okay.
Yes, we have.
Ms. Naylor, are there any plans to try to secure a larger venue in the future to allow more participants?
Well, we've not talked about that right now. The Expo Center is probably the best place to host it. And that also includes being able to park. You know, at the university, it was very difficult at that time. So we knew that that was not going to work for long. So the Expo is what it is right now, unless something is built that's larger.
Yeah, I got to attend this year for the first time. I was thrilled about that.
Oh.
Sue, you had your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate, it's more of a statement than a question that I have. I appreciate the fact that you're having a celebration that has multi-components. I think including the young people and the
Yes.
sometimes in the entertainment, I've seen that, and when the competition, and having a special speaker and recognizing community service along these
Yes.
lines is great. But I think even a more important thing, and sometimes my husband and I don't always sit by at the diversity table because we want to interact with people we don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so if, I think there's not necessarily, if we've got a big enough community and we've got different pockets, we don't always get to interact with as wide a range as exists in the community. And it's one place that we've enjoyed being able to meet and interact with people that we don't necessarily
Yes.
have that opportunity, get to see otherwise, or not very often.
We'd like to mention a couple, Nick Foster and Dave Taylor both put out in the chat the address for getting to that. So in case anyone's looking for it. Nick, you have your hand up?
I do, but I'm going to yield to my friend, Dr. Miller, who has his hand up in real life over there.
Oh, thank you.
And then maybe you can come back to me.
Well, I had my hand up in both ways, but I don't think anyone could see it. I would like, Ms. Naylor, if you would expand just a bit upon the point you made regarding an inspirational and positive focus for the event. I've noticed that myself. In attending the event, well, let me preface by saying often when I attend events that focus upon civil rights, diversity, equality, etc., what I hear is a litany of problems. And I often come away feeling worse than I did when I entered. But that has not been the case with the Columbia Values Diversity event. It really is uplifting, and I feel better when I leave. How difficult has it been to maintain that focus, that positive message, and what do you wish to have people who attend the event do following the event to promote a better, diverse and equal and inclusive community here in Columbia?
I think the most important thing is when you come to the breakfast, and we do try to make sure that it is uplifting and informative. And I also think that it's important that we showcase the diversity that we have right here in our community. And I think that's why the first few that we did, we wanted to expand on those individuals in our community, young and old, who are diverse and what they have to offer. And then, of course, when our budget grew a little bit, we were able to bring in others to also tell stories about the importance of diversity and how it has been important in their lives. But I think what I would like to see happen, and as a committee member, I'm not alone, because we discussed this. We want to be sure that when you come for that breakfast and you are enlightened, that when you leave and go back to your businesses and to your offices, you will carry the message with you that you heard that morning. And by carrying it with you, I mean, have discussions with people that you work with. We hope that business people will come together and share some of their ideas. And it's not always going to be positive. It may be something that they did not like, or they did not appreciate, or they did not learn. And that's important too. But go back to where you came from and have discussions and talk amongst each other. I think that's the best way to get messages across.
Thank you. Back to Mr. Foster then.
Thank you, David. And I want to apologize for arriving late. I'm probably going to have to leave a little bit early too. So I just would say that in advance. But I really did want to hear from Monica today. I'm very pleased and honored to serve on the planning committee with her and others. And it's a joy to be a part of it. And I have to say, Wiley, I think one of the things that makes it inspirational that has happened, especially over the past few years, have been the artistic elements of it. This year's event was very emotional for me. I came to tears in my eyes on at least 3 occasions, and it was just wonderful. And Monica, you do a wonderful job. And we are going to start. I spoke to Sarah Dresser just recently from the Office of Cultural Affairs. Sarah and her office lead that planning, and I saw her just recently, and she said, we're going to have to get started planning on the next one very soon. So I wonder, Monica, with your perspective of so many years being involved, and with the upcoming 30th anniversary, is there someone that you have sort of thought, boy, I'd really love to see this person come and be a part of this event? Or if it's not a person, somebody else, some organization or whatever. I'm really curious what you might be thinking looking
You know,
ahead.
that's hard for me to say. I have to go back to budget because, probably who I would want, we wouldn't be able to afford. So, but we have so much local talent in our community and also in our state. So we have been fortunate enough to invite speakers. We had the former mayor of Ferguson when that incident took place in Ferguson, and he came to us after that and spoke to us. And there again, even though Ferguson is in St. Louis, our communities were very similar. And he pointed out ways that we in Columbia have some of the same issues that they were dealing with in Ferguson. So it just helps to know, and I think I said this earlier, that when we talk about diversity, when we come together and have conversations, we often find out we are a lot more alike than we are different. And I wanted to go back to the program itself and share when I talked about so many things under that diversity umbrella. We try to make sure that on that program, all faiths are represented when we do the opening ceremony. We try to make sure that there are representatives who are maybe from the disabled community who participate in the program. So it is such a wide spectrum, and we try to make sure that we are inclusive in presenting the program. I think that's a very important part of it too. I'd love to have Barack Obama. It just
That's what I thought too.
We've talked about that, but I don't think we quite have the budget to afford him. That would be my choice since you asked.
Carl, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. I just want to give credit where credit is due. I mean, this organization, your leadership and the committee and so on has really made it easier, even for our local government, the city council, to establish a new Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Needless to say, the Black History Trail is a remarkable thing that your group has helped with as well. And most recently, the appointment of a new city manager. You mentioned Ferguson. DeCarlin Seawood was the city manager after the Ferguson event, if you will. So we've made tremendous progress here, even though obviously there is a lot of work to do, and you said it was continuing. I guess my question is pretty simple. I mean, having a vested interest in this,
Yes.
on the city council, how can we help? How can we do more? I mean, the city does some, but the city council, what would you like to see? What would you ask of us that we can do to help this organization in this effort?
The organization itself, I'm sorry, at the city council or?
Yes, the city council in particular. I mean, because what can we do to help the diversity of the event, the effort, the whole nature of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Okay. Well, I think the most important thing is to support it and to spread the word about supporting it. We want as many people to attend as possible, and not only attend, and I will repeat, when you leave, make sure that you have those discussions with people. And I think someone said earlier, I like to visit with people that I don't know who are there. So even when you leave the breakfast, if you can find someone that you don't work with, but someone that and have a conversation with them and talk about issues within our community, things that we need to look at that we want to make sure are diverse. You know, I come from the Columbia Public School District, and I've been a part of our intern program, which is a program that was established many years ago, but we try to, through that program, grow our own community students to become interested in becoming teachers in our district, because it's just not that easy anymore to recruit outside of Columbia. So, and it has been a successful program. We want to see more diversity in roles within our community. And by roles, I mean jobs. I'm really excited about the new city manager, and we want more of that, because I think it makes a difference with the young people in our community. When they can look around and see people who look like them in positions, then they say to themselves, then this is possible for someone like me. And that makes a huge difference on attitudes. When you can buy into your community, where you live, and the work that you do, there's a certain pride about it. And you want to make it be a good place to live. So we want that representation throughout the community. And I applaud the city for making that first step with our city manager. And the other part of that is we want to make sure that we retain those people, because that's something that's difficult to do too. I know that through our educational system. We sometimes get teachers and hire them, but we have to make sure that we are doing things and have things in place to keep them in our community.
Sue, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment that if for the 30th anniversary in particular, I have not heard in the past whether you try to do a little bit of fundraising among the public. I mean, you may with certain companies, large companies especially, but if you don't, I would recommend for at least for the 30th that you try doing that. And
That's a
that might help.
suggestion. We have not done that. No, that's a good suggestion.
Because I know I would be glad to do something with that, because whatever you get on the ticket, much of it goes for the meal, not
Yes.
not the program.
Yes.
Foster, I think you have your hand up again, or you?
I was just going to say the city does have some budget for this, and there is some income from the sale of the tickets, the sale of the tables, and there are some also sponsorships for the event at different levels. But you're prompting me to think, Monica, we probably should talk about this in the next time. That with the 30th anniversary, there may be an opportunity to up our game in terms of how much we might be able to secure in the way of revenue. And who knows, we might raise enough money that we could invite, I don't know, a former president or something like that. And I'm going to have to step off, folks. Thanks so much. Always good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank
Yes,
you.
thanks for being here.
How about a former first lady?
That works.
Oh, hey, that would work too. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Any
a few
other
minutes.
questions?
I
Yes,
wonder
sir.
if there's ever been any talk of expanding the diversity breakfast and the whole concept beyond Columbia to the rest of the county. God knows we could use some of that down here in Ashland.
Well, not at this point. We've kind of got our hands full right now, but it certainly is something to think about. It's something to think about. And, you know, these are all ideas that committee wants to hear. So I certainly will take it back to the committee.
Thanks.
I would simply mention that I know that there are the county commissioners often attend.
Yes.
And various departments of the county have participated in recent years. So the county is aware of the event and I think supportive of the event. just how it could expand its interest into the outlying areas, I'm not sure. But again, simply raising the issue alerts us to be aware that we need to be thinking about that. And I'm sure we can find some way to try to become more inclusive of geographical territory, as in addition to various kinds of people.
Yes,
Good point, Wiley. So thinking
that's an
in terms of
excellent
diversity over city or rural versus urban, and even.
Yes, yes.
yes.
Good point. Yeah, I might recommend if we'd say, if we're, the current venue is the biggest one we could do in Columbia anyway, and we want to keep the event, the event should probably be kept around Martin Luther King's birthday, but maybe we'll think about doing another event during the summer, so it can be an outside picnic, and you can have an open, more room to have more people. So
And
just
that's an excellent thought, because we think about the breakfast being one day out of the year that we all come together. And if it is something, which I think it is, that we need to be aware of all year long. You know, when I was multicultural coordinator, that was one thing that was important to me, that we don't celebrate Black history just in February. We need to celebrate it throughout the entire year, or any history for that matter. We need to be diverse and be aware of the diversity throughout the entire year. So yes, that's a suggestion.
A Juneteenth picnic or a 4th of July picnic?
Yes. Mhm.
I was going to say, just as Ms. Naylor said, just unlike, I think the leader of the United States Senate, we don't like to think of African-American history and American
Oh,
history,
God.
right? We're all in this together.
Very good, David.
Good point. Well, thank you so much again for having me. I really appreciate the time to share. All right.
Well, on behalf of the Muleskinners, I will say thank you for coming, and thank you for doing all the work that you do to put on these events. We'll try and help you in any way that we possibly can, but thank you for coming.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, I think that's